On a summer morning in 1985, the Chelmsford Police Station in Essex County received an emergency call. A panicked man claimed his sister was having a mental breakdown and wanted to kill the whole family. The situation was extremely urgent. The police responded immediately and rushed to the scene. At that point, the house was completely silent. The police didn't act rashly, but planned to wait until dawn. What happened inside the house, and why did this case spark such intense controversy? Next, we'll tell you about the famous British case, the White House Farm murder case. Case background. The incident took place in Essex County, a county in eastern England bordering the sea and located northeast of London. The county's capital is Chelmsford. On the north bank of the Blackwater River lies a small town called Tollinshunt-Darcy, about 30 kilometers from Chelmsford. In this town, there's a farm called White House Farm, covering an area of 120 hectares, equivalent to about 120 soccer fields. The Bamber family, the protagonists of today's story, lived here. The farm owner was Neville Bamber, 61 years old, a former Royal Air Force pilot and current local magistrate. He married his same-age wife, June, and then moved into White House Farm, which had belonged to June's father. June, 61, suffered from severe depression, a serious mental disorder. She had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital and received 6 electroshock treatments there. Later, she underwent treatment from psychiatrist Selina Ferguson. The Bamber couple couldn't have children. After marriage, they adopted a girl and a boy from the Church of England Children's Society, forming a family of 4. The daughter was named Sheila. She was given to the society by her birth mother 2 weeks after birth and adopted by the Bambers at 3 months old. The son was named Jeremy. He was given to the society 6 weeks after birth, and the Bambers adopted him 5 years after Sheila. Although both children were adopted by the Bambers, they grew up together, and the couple treated them as their own. The Bamber family not only owned the farm, but also a caravan campground and property in London. They were well off. The family of 4 lived a prosperous and peaceful life at White House Farm. The family members' lives, in the blink of an eye, more than 20 years passed, and the daughter and son had grown up and started their own lives. Sheila fell in love and married art student Colin Caffell, but they divorced after 5 years. They had a pair of twin sons, Daniel and Nicholas, who were 6 years old and lived with their father. Sheila moved out of White House Farm and lived in a small house on Maida Vale, not Hyde Street, though it was only 5.6 kilometers away, just a 5-minute drive. At night, Sheila worked at a bar where she met Julie Mugford, 3 years younger, and they were in a passionate relationship. In August 1985, 28-year-old Sheila brought her 2 twin sons back to White House Farm. 24-year-old Jeremy also returned to the farm. The Bamber family reunited once again. However, just a few hours later, a shocking nationwide case unfolded in this family. The fateful night. On August 6 to 7th, 1985, a Wednesday, at around 3:26 a.m., the Chelmsford Police Station received an emergency call. The caller, sounding very anxious, said his father had just called him to say his sister had a mental breakdown at home, was holding a gun, and the situation was extremely urgent. The father's call was cut off mid-sentence. The man was worried something bad might happen at home, so he asked the police to hurry to his father's house at White House Farm. The caller was the farm owner's son, Jeremy Bamber. Seeing the urgency, the police immediately dispatched officers to the incident site at White House Farm. On the way, they encountered Jeremy, who was also heading to the farm but driving at a slow speed. He arrived at White House Farm 1 or 2 minutes after the police. The farmhouse had a 2-story structure. After arriving, the police shouted into the house a few times, but no one responded. The entire farm was eerily quiet. They tried pushing the door, but the front door was locked and couldn't be opened. Upon observation, only one window in a ground floor room was open. The rest were closed. Seeing this, the on-site officers reported to their superiors and requested additional personnel. At 5 a.m., reinforcements arrived at the farm. It was still pitch black outside, so the police didn't dare rush in. They decided to wait until dawn. At 5:30 a.m., Jeremy at the scene appeared very distraught. He was very worried about what might happen to his family inside. Then he called his girlfriend Julie, and she soon arrived at White House Farm. By now, 2 hours had passed since the report. The police used a megaphone multiple times to call into the house, trying to communicate with Sheila during her supposed breakdown. But the only sound from inside was a dog barking. During the wait for dawn, the police conducted a simple interview with Jeremy. They asked why his father, Neville, didn't call the police first upon seeing the situation at home, but called him instead. Jeremy said his father was always concerned about face and didn't want family scandals aired publicly, so he avoided alerting the police directly. Jeremy said his sister Sheila had mental illness and had been receiving treatment for years without improvement. He didn't get along well with Sheila, and the family had worried she might harm the twins. Jeremy wasn't sure if Sheila would actually hurt anyone, but he knew she was familiar with guns because they had gone target shooting together. The gun in Sheila's hands was likely the family's rifle. Jeremy said that the previous evening, he had been at White House Farm having dinner with the family. During the meal, they heard rabbit sounds outside. Jeremy fetched the family's rifle, loaded it with bullets, and prepared to shoot the rabbits. After opening the door, the rabbits fled without a trace, so he didn't use the rifle. Before leaving the farm that night, Jeremy casually left the rifle on the kitchen table with a full magazine of bullets next to it. Discovering the scene. At 7:30 a.m., the police forcibly broke through the house's side door and entered. They found the front door was locked from the inside, with the key still in it. Starting from the ground floor, the police searched each room one by one. On the ground floor, kitchen floor, they found the farm owner, Neville, lying by the fireplace. He was wearing pajamas, with an overturned chair nearby. Neville had been shot 8 times, 6 shots to the face and head at close range, and 2 from a distance beyond 60 centimeters. In addition to the gunshot wounds, Neville had external injuries, 2 wounds each on his right side and the top of his head, which could have caused him to lose consciousness. His lips and left foot were injured, his jaw was fractured, and there were wounds on his teeth and neck. These injuries could have caused blood to flow into his mouth, possibly making clear speech difficult. Additionally, his arms had bruises from blunt force, shaped like they were caused by being struck with the rifle butt. The kitchen was in disarray, with shattered dish fragments scattered on the floor. Under the rug was Neville's watch and a fragment of the rifle butt. The ceiling lampshade was shattered. On the wall cabinet was a cream-colored rotary phone with the receiver removed and placed aside. In the kitchen, 3.22 caliber bullet casings were found. On the stairs leading to the second floor, another .22 caliber casing was discovered, with considerable bloodstains on the stairs. Based on the casing positions, the police inferred that Neville was shot 4 times on the second floor, but remained conscious. He then struggled down the stairs to the kitchen on the ground floor. The perpetrator followed and engaged in a fierce struggle, during which the suspect fired more shots at Neville at close range. Ultimately, Neville couldn't hold out and collapsed. The scene on the second floor shocked the investigating officers even more. The second floor master bedroom was Neville and June's room. 2 people were lying on the floor. Near the door was June, wearing pajamas, her body and clothes covered in blood. Based on the traces on June's clothes, she was standing upright when shot. June had been shot 7 times, 1 to the forehead at close range, 2 to the right side of her head, the fatal shots, and the rest distributed on her right neck, right forearm, right chest, and right knee. Lying next to June was Jeremy's sister, 28-year-old Sheila. Sheila was wearing pajamas with 2 gunshot wounds to her neck and chin. Police experts believed the lower wound wouldn't have killed Sheila immediately, while the higher one was a contact shot. From the bloodstains on Sheila's pajamas, she was in a sitting position during both shots. On Sheila's body was a rifle with the muzzle pointed at her neck. To her right was a Bible. This was June's Bible, opened and face down. This Bible was usually kept on the nightstand in the master bedroom. Inside and outside the room, 13.22 caliber bullet casings were found. She had no other external injuries, and there was no evidence she had fought with anyone before death. The first officer to enter the second floor master bedroom said Sheila's hands and feet were very clean. Her fingernails had been recently trimmed with no damage, and there was no blood on her fingertips. Further into the second floor was the room Sheila lived in as a child. Sheila's 6-year-old twin sons were lying on the bed, no longer breathing. They seemed to have been shot in their sleep. Daniel was shot 5 times in the back of the head, 4 at close range. Nicholas was shot 3 times, all at close range. 8 bullet casings were found in the room. At White House Farm, the entire Bamber family, except Jeremy, had perished. What exactly happened that night awaited police investigation. Initial forensic results. Forensic examination revealed Sheila had taken haloperidol before death, an antipsychotic drug used to treat schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, etc. Additionally, Sheila had used illegal substances a few days prior. Traces of lead were found on her hands and forehead, but at normal levels from everyday household handling. The rifle on her body was the murder weapon, a .22 caliber semi-automatic rifle with a 10-round magazine. The rifle butt was missing a piece that matched the fragment found in the kitchen. Several fingerprints were extracted from the rifle. Sheila's right ring finger on the right side of the butt, Jeremy's right index finger on the barrel, rear, and butt. He admitted handling the rifle the night before to shoot rabbits. 3 fingerprints couldn't be identified. During the police survey of the house, Jeremy's girlfriend Julie was questioned by the police. Julie said between 3 a.m. and 3:30 a.m., Jeremy had called her saying there was a problem at home, sounding anxious. When Julie answered, she was groggy and sleepy, so she didn't ask what happened and fell back asleep. Police's initial inference. Based on the clues gathered, the police inferred that Sheila had a mental breakdown that night. She took the rifle from the kitchen, first shooting her twin sons in their sleep, then going to the second-floor master bedroom to shoot her mother, June. Neville, a former soldier in his youth, had some vigilance and woke up immediately, getting out of bed and running toward the door. Sheila shot him 4 times. Neville struggled to the ground floor, getting shot again on the way down the stairs and falling, causing multiple injuries. Then, Neville managed to reach the kitchen, picked up the phone to call his son Jeremy, but was shot again before finishing. After her episode, Sheila came to her senses, realized she had killed her family, regretted it deeply, returned to the second-floor master bedroom, sat on the floor, and shot herself. The police investigated Sheila and found she had a troubled life. After being adopted by the Bambers, Sheila's relationship with her mother June was poor. June was a devout religious believer who not only practiced herself but often forced her children to accept her religious doctrines. But Sheila had a free-spirited personality and often clashed with June's views. She felt her mother didn't understand or support her, and their relationship deteriorated to the point of not speaking. At 17, Sheila met art student Colin at school, and they soon fell in love. Shortly after, Sheila discovered she was pregnant. Her mother, June, a devout believer, absolutely forbade her daughter from premarital relations or pregnancy out of wedlock. After that, June secretly arranged an abortion for Sheila. That summer, Sheila and her boyfriend Colin were sunbathing nude in a field. When June discovered it, she was furious and called Sheila the devil's child. Their relationship hit rock bottom. Young Sheila was slim and attractive, so she was scouted by a modeling agency and became a model. In 1977, at 20, Sheila got pregnant again. That May, she and boyfriend Colin registered to marry. At 6 months pregnant, Sheila unfortunately miscarried. The Bamber couple bought a garden apartment in London to help Sheila recover physically and mentally. Later, Sheila miscarried again. This series of experiences put unprecedented pressure on Sheila. 2 years later, Sheila finally gave birth to twin boys. After giving birth, to focus on family, Sheila's modeling career ended. Before the twins, Sheila had been on strict bed rest in the hospital for 4 months. Unexpectedly, during Sheila's pregnancy, Colin cheated. 5 months after the twins' birth, husband Colin left Sheila. 3 years later, they officially divorced. From her mother June's humiliation, to repeated miscarriages, to her husband's betrayal, this series of blows made Sheila gradually become depressed, frustrated, and insecure. Her mental state began to deteriorate. Once, at Sheila's birthday party, her then-husband Colin left with another woman in front of everyone. Sheila had an emotional breakdown and smashed a window with her fist. After that, she began psychiatric treatment. After the divorce, Sheila's parents bought her another apartment in London. The twin sons were taken and raised by their father, Colin. Sheila felt immense pain and wanted to follow her birth mother. Shortly after the divorce, she briefly met her birth mother at London Airport, but they lost contact afterward. After that, Sheila befriended a group of bad influences who gathered to use illegal substances. Sheila's mental condition worsened. Sometimes she would bang her head against walls. Her family doctor referred her to Dr. Ferguson, who had treated her mother, June. Dr. Ferguson diagnosed Sheila with schizophrenia and treated her with the antipsychotic trifluoroperazine. In the medical records, Ferguson wrote that Sheila believed the devil gave her the ability to project evil onto others. She called her twin sons the children, which was how her mother June had called her. Sheila believed she had the ability to murder her children or make them kill others. 5 months before the incident, Sheila had another breakdown. This time, she muttered religious content, claiming she could communicate directly with God and that someone was trying to kill her. After 4 weeks of treatment, Sheila was discharged but still needed monthly injections of haloperidol. 3 days before the incident, at her parents' request, Sheila picked up the twin sons from her ex-husband Colin and brought them back to White House Farm. They would spend a week there. Since Colin planned to take the children to Norway afterward to visit grandparents, the Bamber family might not see the twins for a long time. That day, the farm manager saw Sheila but noticed no abnormalities. The next day, 2 farm workers saw Sheila and the children together. They seemed to be having fun. The day before the incident, Jeremy arrived at the farm in the evening and the family gathered. Jeremy told the police that after arriving, he heard his parents suggest to Sheila that the twin brothers be placed in local foster care, but Sister Sheila didn't care about the suggestion. At 9:30 p.m., Jeremy left the farm, with a farm worker able to testify to that. Afterward, the farm secretary called Neville. The secretary told the police that the call seemed to interrupt an argument. He heard Neville was dissatisfied with Sheila, and finally, Neville angrily hung up. The secretary thought Neville rarely got angry and had never hung up like that before. He was usually a very good-tempered person. At 10 p.m., the hostess, June's sister, called and talked to June and Sheila. June's sister said she detected no abnormalities in them. Since Sheila had mental illness and was delirious during episodes, and the night before the incident, Sheila had conflicts and arguments with her family, possibly triggered. The police and media believe Sheila was the killer of the whole family. There was nothing to doubt. The Daily Express published a report the day after the incident, directly pointing to the mentally disturbed Sheila killing the family and then ending her own life. Just when people thought the case was settled, 3 days later, a new discovery brought a shocking reversal, forcing the police to overturn all previous inferences. New discovery and reversal. Initially, the police, combining various clues, were convinced Sheila killed the family and then committed suicide. Therefore, the White House farm scene wasn't properly protected or meticulously surveyed. The police moved the .22 caliber rifle without gloves. The Bible next to Sheila wasn't carefully examined. Within days, the police burned blood-stained bedding and carpets, cremated the bodies of Neville, June, and Sheila, and buried the twins. 3 days after the incident, other Bamber family members came to White House Farm. Jeremy's cousin, David Boutflower, unexpectedly found a silencer and rifle scope in the gun cabinet in the ground floor office. But David didn't report it immediately. He took the silencer home. 5 days after the incident, the police retrieved the silencer from cousin David. Upon inspection, its surface was damaged with red-black liquid on it. an officer noted a gray hair attached to the silencer, but when it reached the inspectors, the hair was gone. Lab personnel found bloodstains on the silencer's inner and outer surfaces, but the outer sample was too small for analysis with the technology at the time. The blood inside matched Sheila's blood type, but could also be a mixture of Father Neville and Mother June's blood. Gun experts believed the blood on the silencer was from blood spatter during close-range shooting. A few days later, Jeremy's cousin returned to White House Farm and found a scratch on the kitchen's red fireplace. The police discovered this matched the red paint on the silencer, inferring it might have been caused by the silencer scraping the mantle during a struggle for the rifle. The discovery of the silencer infinitely increased Jeremy's suspicion as the perpetrator, because if someone else was the killer, they were unlikely to hide the silencer after killing the family and then shoot themselves. The police didn't find the silencer during their first search of the farm. Perhaps someone deliberately hid it to prevent the police from finding it. Subsequently, the police investigated the suspect, 24-year-old Jeremy. Investigating Jeremy. After being adopted by the Bambers, Jeremy entered Gresham's school at age 9, where he joined the Army Cadet Force. But due to constant bullying, Jeremy didn't like it there. He left without qualifications. Afterward, his father Neville funded a trip to Australia for Jeremy, where he learned to dive. He later went to New Zealand. A friend of Jeremy's said that in New Zealand, Jeremy broke into a jewelry store, stole an expensive watch, and later bragged about being involved in illegal substance smuggling. In 1982, 21-year-old Jeremy returned to England and worked as a waiter in restaurants and bars. Later, he worked at his parents' White House farm for £170 a week. He didn't live on the farm, but settled in Goldhanger, 5.6 kilometers away. His father Neville also gave him a car and 8% shares in the caravan campground business. Although Jeremy was adopted by the Bamber couple from a young age, perhaps lacking that blood tie, Jeremy's relationship with his parents was poor. According to the farm secretary, Jeremy often provoked his parents, would apply makeup to upset his father, and hide live rats, his mother's biggest fear, in the car to scare her. Every time Jeremy came to the farm, there would be some argument with his parents. At the Bamber family's funeral, photos showed Jeremy hugging his girlfriend Julie's arm, crying sadly. But later, at the wake, Jeremy smiled and joked with friends. Shortly after the funeral, Jeremy went to Amsterdam, Netherlands with friends, where he bought a large amount of marijuana. After returning, Jeremy euthanized his mother June's beloved dog and began selling off family assets. He placed ads in newspapers to sell his father Neville's car for £900 and even tried to sell 20 nude photos of Sheila to newspapers for £20,000. Notably, the police found a bicycle in Jeremy's home that wasn't his, but belonged to his mother June. Shortly after the incident, the police had questioned Jeremy's girlfriend, Julie. At the time, Julie fully supported Jeremy, believing sister Sheila was the killer. Unexpectedly, a month after the incident, Julie went to the police station. She overturned all her previous statements and said Jeremy had been planning to kill his family. The reason Julie's attitude did a 180-degree turn was that 3 days before going to the station, she learned her boyfriend Jeremy had been secretly dating his ex-girlfriend. In anger, Julie went to the police to expose Jeremy. According to Julie's latest statement, 5 months before the White House farm incident, Jeremy stole 980 pounds from the Caravan Campground office building. He staged the scene as an outside burglary. Julie admitted she had assisted Jeremy in these shady dealings. A year before the incident, Jeremy had expressed a desire to get rid of all his family. He once said his sister Sheila was crazy and had nothing to live for. His parents spent a lot of money on an expensive London apartment for Sheila, which greatly annoyed Jeremy. Jeremy had talked about using sleeping pills to knock his parents out and then shooting them. He also said his sister Sheila was a perfect scapegoat. Jeremy had mentioned riding his bicycle along the road behind his house to White House Farm, which would take about 15 minutes, then entering through a ground floor window and leaving through another, locking the window from outside so it would appear locked. Jeremy had even tried killing rats with his bare hands to test if he could kill people, but it made him realize he couldn't kill his family, though he continued discussing his plan. The weekend before the incident, Julie and Jeremy spent time together at the cottage in Goldhanger. Julie had seen Jeremy's mother's bicycle there. At 9:50 p.m. the night before the incident, Jeremy called Julie. On the phone, Jeremy said he had been thinking about the crime plan all day. He said if he didn't do it that night, he might never have the chance again. A few hours later, on the morning of the incident, Jeremy called Julie again, saying everything went smoothly. There was a problem at the farm. He hadn't slept all night. Goodbye, dear. I love you very much. When was this call exactly? Julie's roommate could testify it was around 3 a.m. At 5:30 a.m. on the day of the incident, Jeremy called Julie again, telling her not to go to work. The police would pick her up later. When the police brought Julie to White House Farm, Jeremy pulled her aside and whispered, "I really should be an actor." That evening, when they were alone, Julie asked Jeremy if he had done all this. Jeremy denied it at first, but later admitted it was done by a friend, a plumber the Bamber family had once hired. Jeremy said he told the plumber how to enter and exit the farmhouse undetected, and had him use a phone with a redial function in the room to call his own house to create an alibi. Jeremy said everything went smoothly except Neville resisted. The friend got angry and shot him 8 times. The friend said Sheila lay down last and shot herself. Then the friend placed the Bible next to her to make it look like Sheila ended her life due to religious fanaticism. After doing all this, Jeremy paid the friend £2,000. Julie recalled that at the Bamber family funeral, Jeremy appeared very sad, but in fact, he was in a good mood during that time, buying expensive clothes for Julie, dining at restaurants, and drinking champagne together. The Bamber family company was worth £400,000. In Neville and June's wills, June left £230,000, Neville £380,000, to be split between daughter Sheila and son Jeremy. Neville's will also mentioned a condition for Jeremy inheriting: he must stay working at White House Farm. Julie's mother said June had always wanted to change the will to bypass Sheila and Jeremy and leave the inheritance to the twin brothers. The dispute over the inheritance seemed to provide Jeremy's motive. The Bamber couple's assets also included land and buildings owned by Jeremy's cousin. After the incident, Jeremy told his cousin he planned to sell them, and it was Jeremy's cousin who discovered the crucial silencer at White House Farm. The above is Jeremy's girlfriend Julie's statement to the police. The content was detailed with no logical flaws, and the police found it credible. The next day, the police arrested Jeremy and his plumber friend. After investigation, the plumber had a solid alibi. He couldn't have been at White House Farm that night. Soon after, the plumber was released by the police. The incident day's report record showed the police received Jeremy's call at 3:36 a.m., but according to the patrol car dispatched at the scene, the vehicle was sent at 3:35 a.m., 1 minute earlier than the report time. Later, it was believed the recorder misread the time. The correct time was 3:26 a.m. for Jeremy's call. White House Farm had 4 phones sharing one line. In the second-floor master bedroom, a cream-colored old rotary phone. In the ground floor office, a blue digital phone. In the kitchen, a pale yellow digital phone and a cream-colored cordless phone. 2 days before the incident, the kitchen cordless phone was sent for repair due to malfunction. British Telecom didn't keep local call records at the time, so specific call times couldn't be determined. The last dialed number from the farm's phones would be recorded in the phone. The kitchen phone's last call was to Jeremy's house. On the day of the incident, the police found the cream-colored rotary phone on the kitchen wall cabinet. This phone should have been in the second-floor master bedroom, unknown why it was in the kitchen. The receiver was removed and placed beside it. The phone was clean with no visible bloodstains. Upon further search, the kitchen's original pale yellow digital phone was hidden in a pile of magazines. Although the redial could prove someone had called Jeremy, it couldn't prove it was Neville himself who dialed. The police asked Jeremy why, after receiving his father's call, he didn't directly dial 999 emergency, but called the Chelmsford police station. Calling the local station required looking up the number, taking more time. Jeremy admitted he spent some time finding the number, but thought it wouldn't affect the police's arrival time. Regarding his girlfriend Julie's series of statements, Jeremy claimed that because he abandoned her, out of revenge, Julie fabricated the string of lies. Jeremy said that in the past 2 years, his relationship with his mother June had improved. He loved his mother and sister. Jeremy admitted to the theft. He had broken into the caravan campground to steal, aiming to prove the office's security was poor. He also claimed he had seen his parents' will. They had left the property to be split equally between him and sister Sheila. Subsequently, Jeremy was charged with theft but was bailed just 4 days later. After that, Jeremy left England with a friend for a vacation in France. 7 weeks after the incident, Jeremy returned to England and was arrested by the police on suspicion of murder. The trial. 1 year after the incident, the White House Farm case was tried at Chelmsford Crown Court. The jury consisted of 7 men and 5 women. The prosecution believed Jeremy had a motive and a thorough plan. He committed the act out of hatred and greed for the inheritance. The night before the incident, Jeremy returned to White House Farm for dinner with the family, then drove back to his home in Goldhanger. In the early morning of the incident, he rode his mother's bicycle, prepared in advance in the yard, not taking the main road, but a small path back to White House Farm. This was to avoid detection. Driving on the main road at midnight could easily be noticed, ruining everything. After arriving by bike, Jeremy entered through a ground floor window, picked up the kitchen rifle, attached the silencer, and attacked the whole family. Afterward, Jeremy staged the scene. He removed the silencer and hid it in the gun cabinet, placed the gun on his sister Sheila's body with the muzzle toward her neck, and placed a Bible next to her to shift suspicion to Sheila. Then, Jeremy took the phone originally in the second-floor master bedroom to the kitchen, called his own house, and left the receiver aside to fake an alibi. After that, Jeremy showered in the bathroom, then left through the window and locked it from outside. The window would then be locked. He rode his mother June's bicycle back via the small path to his home in Goldhanger and called the police, pretending to head from home to White House Farm. In court, the defense insisted Jeremy was innocent and directly accused Sheila as the perpetrator. Earrings found at the scene indicated Sheila had been in a fight there. After 25 days of trial, the jury voted 10-2 in support of the prosecution. Chelmsford Crown Court delivered the verdict. Defendant Jeremy Bamber, guilty of murder, sentenced to 5 life imprisonments. In the many years after, Jeremy, dissatisfied with the verdict, appealed multiple times. Though repeatedly rejected, Jeremy didn't give up. He even offered a £1 million reward for anyone who could help overturn the conviction. The case sparked heated discussions from the start. The controversy over whether the suspect was Sheila or Jeremy never ended. Arguments and opposing views. Those who believed Jeremy was the killer gave the following reasons. Sheila's relationship with her mother June was poor. Her psychiatrist Ferguson and ex-husband Colin testified that Sheila had never used violence against her family and believed she wouldn't harm her parents or twins. But Jeremy often provoked his parents. A farm worker testified that Jeremy had said he wouldn't share the property with his sister. On the day of the incident, after receiving the report, the police passed Jeremy on the way to White House Farm. At the time, Jeremy's car was driving much slower than theirs, while witnesses said he usually drove fast. Those who believed Jeremy was the killer thought Jeremy never received a call from his father Neville because after being shot on the second floor, Neville was severely injured and had no strength to call. The wounds on Neville's right side and head might have caused brief unconsciousness. Also, the kitchen phone was clean with no visible bloodstains, inconsistent with Neville being injured first and then calling. If Jeremy really received a distress call from his father Neville in such an emergency, he didn't dial 999 or call farm workers, but first called his girlfriend Julie, then the local station. This is hard to explain. Regarding the murder weapon, the Bamber family of 5 was shot 25 times, each precisely. This indicates the killer not only knew how to use guns, but was very skilled. Jeremy told the police he had gone target shooting with Sheila, but later admitted he hadn't seen his sister Sheila shoot as an adult. 2 Bamber relatives testified that Sheila couldn't use a rifle and had poor hand-eye coordination. Since blood was found on both inner and outer surfaces of the silencer, it indicates the silencer was attached during the shooting. The rifle itself is somewhat long. With the silencer, it's even longer. This would make it impossible for Sheila to pull the trigger against her own chin. Even if possible, the silencer should have remained on the rifle, but it didn't. Theoretically, Sheila could have removed the silencer after shooting and put it back in the ground floor gun cabinet, then returned to the second floor master bedroom to end her life. But Sheila had no reason to do so. The rifle's capacity is 10 bullets. Killing the Bamber family used 25 bullets, meaning the magazine needed reloading twice. Sheila's nails were very clean, with no excess lead or bullet lubricant found. Her pajamas had no gunpowder residue. The kitchen where Father Neville was found was in chaos, indicating an intense fight occurred. Neville was 193 centimeters tall, healthy, and a former soldier. Sheila was 170 centimeters tall and slender. She couldn't match Father Neville's strength. If they had a fierce fight, it's impossible for only the father to be covered in wounds while Sheila was unscathed. Therefore, it's impossible for Sheila to kill the family first and then commit suicide. Jeremy is more likely the perpetrator. But some offered different opinions, believing Jeremy was innocent. They gave the following reasons. The gunshot wound on Sheila's chin required a special angle to hit. It's hard for someone else to form it. A forensic photography expert, after viewing photos taken that day, believed the scratch on the mantle was left after the incident. The scratch appeared in photos taken on September 10, 1985, 34 days after the incident. The original crime scene photos show no scratch. For example, a red spot under the mantle on the rug matched the missing nail polish on one of Sheila's toes. The person who first discovered the scratch on the mantle was Jeremy's cousin. And after Jeremy's sentencing, this cousin inherited part of the property. The conflicts of interest cast a shadow over this evidence. Similarly, Julie's testimony's validity is questionable. Jeremy abandoned Julie, so she harbored resentment toward him. During police interrogation, Julie admitted to crimes like selling illegal substances, burglary, and check fraud. The prosecution had reached a deal with Julie. As long as she testified, they wouldn't charge her for the crime she admitted. After the verdict against Jeremy, Julie sold her story to News of the World for £25,000. Experts point out that many female offenders have no history of violence before committing crimes. Some offenders seek ritual sense, cleaning their bodies before suicide. This could explain why Sheila's body was very clean. The first officers entering White House Farm didn't protect the scene well. By the time problems were discovered, it was too late. Some evidence was attempted to be restored. Multiple sets of photos show some items at the scene were damaged with obvious position differences. The police had serious negligence in handling the case. Therefore, many believe Jeremy is innocent. To this day, the debates from both sides continue, with neither able to convince the other. What remains unchanged is the protagonist, Jeremy. At 61 years old, he is still serving time in Wakefield Prison and insists he is innocent. In prison, he helps fellow inmates with reading and writing. As the sole survivor of the Bamber family, whether the White House Farm murder case was committed by Jeremy may only be known to him. Update as of 2025. There have been new evidence, photos, police logs suggesting a potential overturn, but appeals have been denied. Jeremy continues to fight with support from media like The Guardian and The New Yorker.